welcome to another episode of Ask Jade. First, I just want to say I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy. This is a very uncertain time, and so I hope everybody's hanging in out there. So I am actually going to go over the new laws passed by the federal government regarding COVID and specifically for small businesses. So they've passed two big laws. It's the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, and then what's known as the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. So that CARES Act is the second one that was passed. That is in regards to the $1,200 stimulus that people received, and then also adding $600 a week on to people receiving unemployment. What I'm going to focus on is the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which within that it contains an Emergency Family and Medical Leave Expansion Act, so it expanded on FMLA, and then Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act. So I'm going to talk about FMLA expansion and paid sick leave. So this applies to all, especially small business owners with employees. So it expands FMLA on a temporary basis to provide job protected leave to employees for a COVID-related reason. That's it. And it applies to employers with fewer than 500 employees. So, but if you're a small business with fewer than 50 employees, you might be exempt from having to provide this pay if it would require leave, and that would jeopardize your viability of your business. So that's something you could possibly be exempt from and to look into. But the emergency leave applies to any employee who has worked for you for at least 30 days prior to taking this leave. It provides 12 weeks of job protected leave if they are unable to work or telework because they are caring for their child, someone under the age of 18, because their child's school has been closed because of COVID. So that is the only qualifying need for this emergency FMLA expansion. The paid leave, the first 10 days are unpaid. The employee can substitute some sort of other accrued leave, such as vacation or sick pay. After the 10 days, you as the employer are required to pay full-time employees 2/3 of their regular rate for the hours they would otherwise normally work. There is a cap. It limits it to $200 per day and $10,000 per employee. If you have part-time or irregular scheduled employees, they are entitled to pay, and that's based on the average hours of work that they normally would work. That's 6 months prior. If they haven't been working for you for 6 months, it's just the average hours they would normally work. The FMLA promises job restoration after leave. So, already if you have 25 or more employees, same obligation under the traditional FMLA to provide the same or equivalent position once they return from the leave. If you have less than 25 employees, you are excluded from this requirement if that position no longer exists because of an economic downturn or other circumstances caused by COVID. But it does require an employer to make reasonable attempts to return that employee to an equivalent position, and that the employer actually has to make those reasonable attempts for up to a year after the employees leave. Moving on, so the paid sick leave, which is included in this act. So there are specific reasons. Again, it has to be related to COVID for the employee to take paid sick leave. The reasons are they are subject to a federal, state, or local quarantine order related to COVID. They are advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine. They are experiencing COVID symptoms. And then also, if they are caring for an individual who is subject to a quarantine order or advised to self-quarantine, and that's not just limited to family members. And then if they are caring for their child because their child's school is closed related to COVID. So those are the only reasons that they can take this emergency paid sick leave. So again, this applies to employers with fewer than 500 employees to provide full-time employees with 80 hours of paid sick leave at the employee's regular rate. And this is regardless of the employee's duration of employment with you prior to the leave. And there is an exception for employers who are healthcare providers or emergency responders. Part-time, again, those employees are entitled based on the average number of hours they would normally work. There is a cap. Once again, it's limited to $511 per day or up to $5,110 per employee total. And then it's a little bit less if it's they are caring for someone else is the reason they're asking for the paid sick leave, it's $200 per day and $2,000 total if they are caring for someone else. They also included in this act tax credits. So the act provides for a series of refundable tax credits for employers who are required to pay this emergency sick leave or this emergency family leave, as we just went over. So you are entitled to a refundable tax credit up to 100% of the qualified sick leave and family leave wages paid by you for each calendar quarter. So, keep track like you normally do. And then I also just want to touch on the Paycheck Protection Program, because this is an amazing program. We already know that it ran out of funding. They did refund it and they're opening back up. So hopefully you either got your application in already, can get approved now, or apply now. It's really pretty easy. Small businesses is who it applies to. And it's called a loan, but it will most likely be 100% forgiven. So it'll be forgiven if the funds are used for payroll costs, interest on mortgages, rent, and utilities. And at least 75% of the forgiven amount must be used for payroll. That's easy enough to do. The forgiveness is based on you, the employer, maintaining or quickly rehiring your employees and maintaining salary or your pay levels. Forgiveness will be reduced if your headcount, your employee headcount declines, or if your salaries and wages are reduced. So you can easily get this forgiven. So I just wanted to touch on that quickly because that can really help small businesses stay open and keep their employees employed, especially with the sick leave and family leave requirements under this act. There's a lot that goes into this. It can get really detailed. I have looked into it and have provided myself with a pretty extensive outline. So please reach out to me if you have questions. And things are changing every day, and I'm always happy to answer questions. So contact me at the law office of Jade Carpenter.